Alright, what's going on, guys? At a time when FromSoftware is almost entirely focused on Armored Core 6, surprisingly or not so surprisingly, Elden Ring has just undergone a new update, patch 1.10. And on the surface, if you were to just go check the patch notes, it may seem like this update didn't do much. However, if you've been playing the game for a long time, you may notice significant changes here, changes that we wanted to see based on the network test. So today we're going to break all of those down. And then we're going to talk about the things that this patch didn't do that we still need to see. And finally, I'm going to show you how we were able to accurately predict when this patch was going to drop, down to the hour. But as we get into that today, let me say a massive thank you for 100,000 subscribers. This has been a huge goal here on the channel for a long time, and I really can't believe we finally hit it. But if you're new to the channel and want to stay up to date on all things Elden Ring, FromSoftware, and Armored Core, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And now let's get into it. Elden Ring Patch Notes version 1.10, Notice of Update Distribution. This comes roughly 4 months after patch 1.09, which is, I believe, the longest break we've had between patches for this game. So needless to say, there were a bit of expectations behind this one. The main feature of this update are the PvP exclusive balance adjustments. The adjustments made in this section do not affect single player or cooperative play. And right off the bat, we get to probably the most significant change on this entire list. Increased poise damage of all weapons and some spells and incantations. This is a massive deal. It's been apparent for a long time that one of the biggest things holding Elden Ring back from being as good as Dark Souls 3 PvP or even some of the other games was that the poise was incredibly unbalanced. Players wearing full veteran gear or full bull goat could pretty much get through any attack at all times and had no counter. But now you can see here I'm able to stun this player wearing full veteran with every hit of my coated swords, a weapon that generally doesn't do a whole lot of poise damage. But now because of this change, light builds can compete with heavy builds, a feat that was virtually impossible prior to this update. And it also means that in a gank situation such as a 1v3, an invader can now stun lock an entire group of hosts. This is a change that really should have been there from the beginning because we were asking for this from day one. But essentially now that poise damage has been increased across the board, PvP is about to feel a lot better. And I think I might go back to my whip build. But to counteract this change, they said increased poise when attacking with some skills, spells, incantations, and some types of weapon attacks that generate poise. Basically that means more hyper armor. And that makes sense, you're gonna need that if the poise damage is increased across the board, because in a situation where you challenge somebody, you should be able to time your hyper armor counter. It'll just make things a bit more calculated overall. The third point there says added damage reduction when performing attacks with some skills, spells, and incantations, and some types of weapon attacks that generate poise. Now there aren't specifics here, but I assume it's the same list as the last change. But again, this is just adding to that calculation. This is making it more forgiving to time your hyper armor, which again makes the focus shift from just wearing heavy armor to now actually having the skills to play at the right time when these buffs are going to apply. And once again, that's how it should have been from the beginning. Number 4, critical hit angles have been extended. And these are a few words that carry a lot of weight. If you played Elden Ring PvP early, especially back during the initial network test, then there were times when you would try to hit an enemy, but get pulled into the backstab animation from across the arena. And during this time, it would never actually give you a backstab, it would just trigger your animation and screw up your flow. It was a massive problem back then. Now to counteract this, they nerfed backstab significantly, and ever since they've been almost impossible to land. But I was doing some testing this morning and definitely had it happen to me a few times. So it looks like backstabs are actually going to be a viable option now. Decrease the invulnerability window of the quick step and hound step skills. Now before everybody gets too mad about that, remember this is only a PvP change, and I do definitely feel like this was warranted, at least on the PvP side. Now don't quote me on this, but from what people have told me, it seems like a change from 10 iframes down to 9. And the final change on the PvP side was decrease the damage reduction granted by some skills, incantations, and items. And I think this mainly refers to things like Black Flame Protection and the Prawn. And again, personally, I think it's a good change. Moving on to general balance adjustments, we only have 3 this time. Increased critical hit damage, decreased recovery time after a missed critical hit, and increased poise damage of all attacks that occur after missing a critical hit. Now personally, I didn't really see the issue with critical hits in PvE, but y'all let me know how you feel about this one. Bug fixes and other changes. Adjusted the player damage animation so that the attack direction is not unintentionally shifted when getting hit while attacking with some types of weapons that generate poise. And this is actually a huge change, because it means they fixed something called aim punch. Amir made a great video breaking down what aim punch is, and why it's a terrible bug, but essentially what this did was stagger the player mid-attack after getting hit, and cause your weapon to go way off course, even even when you normally should have poised through it. So if you ever randomly found yourself missing attacks, this was probably why. But thankfully it seems like this is now fixed. Fixed a bug that prevented some spells and incantations from causing damage while under the effects of some skills and items. Now they don't give a list here, but it sounds like a good change. Personally, I'm unsure exactly what that's talking about. Fixed a bug that caused the effects of the Sacred Order skill to continue after switching weapons. Now the way that reads, it sounds like they're getting rid of the ability to use that skill on a weapon and then pocket it after using the buff. But I know there are other skills besides Sacred Order that do that, so some of y'all have to let me know exactly what this is fixing. And then corrected some text in certain languages. But now that we're at the end of the patch notes, let's talk about what it didn't do. Personally, after a 4-month break between patches, I was really expecting there to be a tiny bit more, particularly when it comes to ray tracing. Patch 1.09 added the ability to play the game with ray tracing on. However, if you turn ray tracing on, the game becomes borderline unplayable, dropping down to single-digit frame rates and causing the game to stutter so bad that you can't even tell it's been activated. And for a feature that was promised even before release, I was really expecting them to address it and make it good. So hopefully they do that at least before DLC drops. And there's also Coliseum matchmaking where if you're not doing 1v1 duels in Leyndell, you will never find a match. Again, this was something that was said to be improved back in 1.09, but did not make a noticeable difference. The 3v3 spirit summon fights in the Coliseum are some of the most fun you can have in the game, but as it stands right now, you can queue for days and never find a match. And I'm sure there's at least 6 people in the world playing it. But those were my 2 biggest things I was hoping to see, but ultimately didn't. For the final point today, like I said, we were able to predict this patch down to the hour. Now, I made a video recently talking about SteamDB changes and how it affects the DLC and patterns that can be recognized on there, and the points I made turned out to be true. Because the pattern for a patch happened 14 days ago, in the exact same fashion that it has before every other patch. Basically, what you're seeing here are internal changes to the PC files that anyone can check at any time. It's all public information. And when we saw development updates and quality assurance updates, we could tell that a patch was likely on the way. And after these changes, there's typically a 14-day silence before the patch goes live, which ended up happening as well. But I just wanted to bring that up because I get a lot of comments of people saying that SteamDB is not a reliable source, and since I'm not a game dev, I shouldn't even be looking at it, which can be fair because sometimes we can see these patterns and they turn out to be nothing. But this does show that they are at least worth looking at and observing, because patterns are patterns and can be valuable prediction tools. Anyways though guys, that is going to pretty much do it for the coverage on patch 1.10. Yes, it was mostly a PvP patch, but the changes that were made were significant and in my opinion are going to make the game a lot better. So I'm excited to hop in and try it out, but y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Are you happy with this patch, or do you think there should have been more? Either way, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. Once again, thank you all very much for 100,000 subscribers. I really can't say thank you enough for that. But with all that, I will catch you in the next one.